So just to give you a little history, we were contacted by the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council that they had received information that Samuel Little had confessed to murders across the United States, including in Savannah. He claims to have murdered a woman in the 1970s and then a woman in the 1980s. I asked Sergeant Santoro with the Savannah Police Department if he would go out and interview Mr. Little so we can get some information. He had confessed to both cases that he strangled and sexually assaulted these women. Sergeant Santoro, with the help of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, he had to search records. Thousands of records going to the coroner's office. They were very helpful. We reached out to retired police officers that were around in the 80s and obtained some information. Mr. Little had stated that he had left the woman in the 80s after he strangled her on a pile of construction material. So Sergeant Santoro found the information, was able to send the picture sight unseen. They sent it out to Mr. Little. They did not tell who it was from, what state, and he identified Frances Campbell. At that point, Sergeant Santoro reached out to Mr. and Mrs. Williams from the obituary of Frances Campbell to find out if there was anyone here. And our hopes, and we presented it to the grand jury, and they have indicted him for the murder and the sexual assault of Frances Campbell. Our hope was to bring some closure and some justice for Frances's family. And I've spoken to them about this, and after the indictment came down, I asked them if they wanted to say anything, and they said they did.
Diane, can you take us back maybe to 1985? I know that was a long time ago, but how hard of a year was that for you?
It was very rough, especially for my parents. My mom, she raised us very well, my dad also, and it really just broke her spirit. It just broke her, yeah.
I guess most crucially, how does it feel today to see that this is indicted, this is, solved?
It's bittersweet. It was the not knowing, and now that we know, it makes a big difference, and I wish my parents were alive to see it, and that's why I really felt like I had to speak on it on behalf of them. And some of the things, I remember it so well of what she went through. I didn't know the whole full details of it, but she was missing for a whole year, and I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter at the time, and I named my daughter after her. Yeah.
34 years is such a long time. I mean, what goes through your mind as you're dealing with this, going, she was missing for a year, and then you're just with this waiting and wondering, what do you think about? Where does it go exactly?
Again, we went on with our lives, but it wasn't a day that went by that we didn't think about them. And I heard that through the detective that he said that he'd chose women that he thought people didn't care about. That's in his mind. We had good parents, loving parents, hard-working parents, gave us a lot, in life to look forward to. And we wondered every day. Every day. The last time we saw her, we dropped her off home, and she confessed her life to God. Hadn't been to church in years, and it's like she knew something, I don't know, and that was it.
What kind of relationship did you have with your sister? What do you, when you think back all those years ago, what do you remember about her?
Her smile. We were very close.
She was your big sister.
Yes, I'm the baby. And we was only a year apart, though. And she wrote her high school song for Richard Arnold. She was very well-rounded, and when she became an age, she left home and kind of got in the world, and that was the end of it.
What high school was it?
Richard Arnold.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got the news, and the detective came to you, or I guess however it came to be that you got, well, talk to me a little bit about how you got the news and then what your reaction was at that point.
Oh, well, I just gotten home literally from the hospital, I had kidney stones, and my husband answered the door, and I got up out the bed, and the way certain things is now, I was afraid to just literally open the door, so I pulled my screen door down and talked to him, and it was just a shock. I still was skeptical about it, He handed me my card, and I made some calls just to make sure he was legit, And it stayed on my mind, until he kept in touch. And I appreciate everything he's done. And you, Miss Heap, I really appreciate it. I don't know what else to say, but I have closure now, and I feel good about it. I do.
Did you ever believe this day would come?
No, not at all, because I know it's other people out there, and she's not the only one that was focused on, but I just never thought it would come, no. I couldn't even imagine it.
How often did you think about your sister? I mean, was it something that you kind of tried to put away in your mind? Or?
That's why I named my daughter, and every day I see my daughter, from a baby growing up, again, I was 6 months pregnant with my daughter, and she's 33 going on 34 years old now. It's not a day go by that I didn't think about her.
If you had the opportunity, both of you, to say one thing to Mr. Little, what would that be? Wow.
Again, I can say that I do not believe in the death penalty. I'm a God-fearing woman. And if he feel he need to make peace with God, that's between him and God. And I'm okay with that, because now I know where my sister is and what happened. And I hope it's all other women, that he's done for other family. I hope it helps. I do. I don't have anything harsh to say to him. I don't.
Some people would be amazed by that, though, that you guys wouldn't have anything harsh necessarily to say to him, considering what happened.
Again, I'm a woman of faith. We was raised that way. And I believe that when it's your time, it don't always have to be pleasant. We all have an expiration date. And again, that's between him and God. I really feel that way. But again, it was the not knowing. And now that I know, it hurts, but it's closure.
To the point of the penalty, right now we have the indictment.
Yes.
So with so many of these cases coming to light here in recent years, realistically, what are we looking at next for Samuel Little with regard to this case?
So with regard to this case, he was indicted by the grand jury. A bench warrant will be issued. We'll place a hold on him. He is facing charges across the United States since people are ahead of us. But we will have those charges. I did have to, when they reached out to me, he only would agree to speak to a police officer if I agreed not to go after the death penalty in this case. And so I wrote a letter. I said I wouldn't, because I figured at the end is this family needed to know, we needed to know who the victim was, and we needed to let the family know. Because I think, as you've said, the two things that have stuck out to me more than anything else is you just needed the closure. And when Mr. Little said that he chose people that he figured had no value and no one would miss, that's so wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that cut quite a bit, because she was dearly loved by her family, and it destroyed her mother. So we will put a hold on him. When I get him, I don't know. But I agree, he'll meet his maker one day, and we'll have to face for all this.
District Attorney Heap, you and Sergeant Santoro worked very hard on this case.
Yes.
To bring this family some type of closure.
And that would be Sergeant Santoro. He did most of, if not all, the work.
Why is it important?
It may sound corny, but behind every crime there's a victim, and they've got a family, and the consequences, you don't know how it affects. This is her big sister. You see her one day and she's gone, and a year later you find the remains and you never know what happened, and it eats away. It said it destroyed your mother, and I just think people need to know, so you can close, so you know. And we have another murder that he's admitted to from the 70s. And we're going to do the same thing, is try to find. And keep in mind, there's no computers, police reports. We were very lucky to find some Detective Finley, who was retired, remembered this case because he had investigated it. Now we're going to go another decade back in the 70s. But there still may be a sister or a child or an aunt or a mother alive. And I can't imagine losing a child and not knowing who did it and what happened. I just can't imagine that kind of, sadness.
Diane, when you looked through everything and you saw, obviously, the pictures that he was drawing, too, did you look at one and go, that was my sister?
I could not, because I guess he drew what was in his mind, what he saw. The only thing, when Sergeant Santoro showed me a few, The only thing I can probably say that a lot of them was colored in light skin and she was like a dark skin. So if you had like one picture that was kind of, but it didn't look like her to me. But
And so that was one of our concerns. And Sergeant Santoro was very careful about it, And the FBI is actually trying to corroborate independently all his allegations. So if he said 90 plus women, okay, well, he said it. Now, can we prove it? And independently, he said that she was found on a pile of construction debris, and we actually found the police report where remains were found. And he said she was only clothed a certain way, and that corroborated, and only the person who had killed her would have known that information. And then also, the picture that was shown to him, we sent it out via, I believe it might have been mail, and somebody walked in and showed it, and he identified her.
Yes.
So that's our independent corroboration.
Do you sometimes feel that because we talked a little bit off camera about not seeking the death penalty for information. Is that something that was a bargain that happens often? Is it something that you really wanted to consider to bring closure to this family?
So when I first heard that you had to do it, I didn't like that. I don't like some serial killer having to have that control to tell me what I'm going to do. But on the other hand, I thought, okay, he's got charges across the United States. The odds of his case getting to us, I mean, we'll have it ready if he could get to us, but he's got to face all these other states. And then I thought, a woman was murdered in 1984. There's got to be family around. And just, we go on with life. We go on to the next case, you look at the next police report, you report on the next crime, but that doesn't mean their pain hasn't left. And it's still there. And as Miss Williams said, not a day went by. And just not knowing, it probably was very hard.
Yes.
Do you have a time frame maybe as far as where this goes from here?
So we'll ask for a bench warrant. It'll be assigned to a judge, and we'll place the hold on him. And then I'll know. I know several other states have already indicted him, and I know Macon, Georgia, is looking at him as well. So where he lines up and coming to us.
Ms. Williams, I know you're still very new to you too, but any message out there for maybe other family members that have been in the same position and waiting and wondering and hoping to get this final closure for you?
Yes. Don't beat yourself up about it. One way or another, you will get closure. If not, through the justice system, again, I'm a God-fearing woman, it will be through him. It will be through God.
Any message for your sister or from your sister, you think, in this case?
I miss her. But you won at the end. He didn't win.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing.